Hello and welcome to episode 217 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, a place where the small press makes one hell of a big noise. I'm Vince Hunt, creator of the Red Mask from Mars, and joining me this week are the creator of Vanguard, Dan Butcher.
Hello.
And the writer behind Cockney Kung Fu, and many others to come soon, Mr. Tony Esmond.
Hello.
That's a nice, cheerful hello, Tony.
Yeah, I was trying to think of something to say, but it got so dubious before we pressed record. I just thought I'd say hello.
Yeah, the debauchery was...
I've never met Hugo, and it all got a bit saucy in front of him. I feel embarrassed.
I don't think you feel embarrassed. It did get saucy.
It did get extremely saucy. And,
My
God
hips
bless
don't lie. We all know that.
It depends what they're doing. Anyway, it's not just us or me contending with the filth that Dan Butcher and Tony Esmond are talking this week, because this is a quite a sensible show this week, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. What?
We've got some more messages about some good feedback for the previous ones.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So we've drafted another fresh voice for the show this week. Yes, we're joined by a comic book writer and editor whose work you may know from stories such as Superhero Help Desk, Malevolence, Murphy's Day, Heavy Black, which I recommended on the show back in the day, and many others. He's also working as editor on the recently awesome-looking Kickstarter success, Lad. It's our pleasure to welcome Hugo Boylan to the show. Hello, sir.
Hi, it has been so difficult not to burst out laughing while we were recounting this whole fantastic pre-intro that
so
we
good,
did.
wasn't it?
It was
good.
I mean, I feel like it's next level discourse we've entered into.
I feel like we're really behind the curtain there, Hugo, and we don't know you. We don't know whether we should trust you yet, but you've heard all our dirty laundry. You've heard it all.
Well, you know, I do have a back gig now, so I'm just back channeling all of this straight through to the gossip sheets. They're ready to go.
Oh, no.
Never trust an editor.
Yes, and Hugo's going to stick with us for the whole show this week, and our discussion that, as we said, is part 5 of our series of the comic making process, so, which, thank you to all the good feedback we've had over the past sort of 4 weeks. It's been a fun bunch of shows. We've had some new guests on. And
one more yet, haven't we?
Yeah,
more after today.
Yeah. I mean, this set of shows isn't really sort of masterclass. We're not telling you, oh, this is how you should do things. We're taking you as like a step-by-step journey through making comics, I guess, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
And the discussion, there's no right or wrong way to do anything. Well, there is a wrong way, and it's normally the way we do this show.
Always a wrong way.
Normally the way I do it.
Yeah, so learn through our mistakes is what we're saying. But no, this week we're going to be talking about the editing process. But before we do all that, then we should give a shout out to our lovely sponsors this week, shouldn't we?
We should indeed, yeah.
Our returning sponsors, Comic House. Yes, they're the indie comic marketplace with a difference. We talk about them every week, and they're good eggs, and they put up with these terrible, terrible ads. So, and if you go on comichouse.com, there's a huge selection of titles on the database and loads of titles that you can get like hard copies of people's books directly from the website. So it's another avenue. If you're a self-published sort of author, etc., it's another way of selling your books. But the thing that we push like cheap drugs every week is their app, which we love.
Drugs are too expensive anyway, aren't they?
I know. Everything's too expensive now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All these traditional vices like drink and drugs and, I don't know, cigarettes, it's all too expensive. So I just stick to squash.
I wonder if the methamphetamine I buy every week is going to get put up in price because of Brexit in the same way that comics have.
Well, I'll just
worry, isn't it?
Yeah, I just got to say this. Don't bring the B word into this, right? But we're not having that on this. We're not.
It's all right to talk about sexually charged methamphetamine, but don't.
Oh, of course, because that's relevant.
That's more okay to talk about. And you've got an Irish guest on now. I'm looking up north thinking there's a bad time a coming with the B word.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if the B word is Brexit or backstop, but one of those two things is going to create a bad time for us here.
The worst word, bleeding cool. There you go.
Shots fired. I love making that noise. Anyway, what were we talking about?
Do you ever make that during bedtime?
Hey?
Bedtime. Do you ever do that noise in bedtime?
All the time. What was that laugh, Dan?
Nothing.
You don't complain when I'm led next to you. Anyway, speaking of Dan, though, Dan's always up to date with the latest Comic House releases and adages to the app. What have they got on there at the moment, Dan?
Featured new additions this week include Whispers, Ash to Blackwater, and Jamshide 2 from Marcosia Enterprises, Tales from Beyond Infinity, issue 1 from the nerds who publish themselves, Actors from Millicent Barnes Comics, The Hammer issue 2 from Iceberg Brothers, Hollow Girl from Luke Cooper, and Lost in Time 4 from JWC. Read these and 100 more indie comics right now on the Comic House app.
There, I reviewed Actors a few months ago. It's very good, very interesting.
Yeah, there's lots of great stuff going on there.
Yeah.
And JWC is a creator that's been mentioned a few times on the show as well.
Oh, yeah, she's said hello to us a few times online, hasn't she?
Yeah,
or he,
yeah.
I don't know.
And-
It's a lady's picture, but I never know who people are. So.
Yeah. And thank you for all the support to all the creators who sort of retweet our silly little show.
Yep.
Well, it's not always silly. Sometimes we talk about serious
No.
stuff.
Yeah.
Before we get stuck into the
dead
topic,
serious today.
are we though?
Eyebrow.
Yeah, I suppose they got it all out of their systems before we started.
I feel like editors are like the enforcers. You know, like they're the ones who got to pull their trousers up and right, I've got to say something here.
And
Pull
this
it-
is exactly
Why are
the
they
line.
pulling their trousers
Hang
up?
on, hang on. Rewind.
Hang on.
Pull your Hugo, pull your trousers up, mate.
What trousers?
You know, like someone's kicking off at the bus queue and everyone's looking around like, oh, who's going to say something? And it's like,
And Dan pulls his
editor.
trousers up.
That's the person who's got. It's me throwing around my trousers down.
Stop, Mike.
I haven't got the fucking bus in like 15, 20 years.
Yeah, it's because of that
So you
moment.
aren't up with the current bus culture, which is, of course, to go to the bus without trousers.
Just round your ankles. Yeah, just casually dropped a little bit down past the knee.
Do the penguin waddle to the bus stop.
I want to get on a bus now.
Yeah.
You really don't.
So, like we said, we're a highbrow show, and we're sponsored by Comic House. So, if you want to find out where
That's the worst one for a while.
it
That's the
is,
worst.
sorry, Pete.
Sorry,
You
Pete.
know
Sorry.
we love you, and but if you like independent comics, then you really need to check the service out. Never mind all these terrible ads. The service is really great. The app is a subscription service, only £3 a month. You get access to all of that and more. And this isn't like Netflix where stuff disappears. The database is just growing.
Yep.
So, and there's a 14-day free trial. So go to comichouse.com and find out more today. Anyway, as we were saying, this is a real serious show, all about
Very true.
all about making comics.
Editing.
All of the editor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I know a little bit about editing because every week it's an uphill struggle when it comes to this show. But as we said, for the we might as well just get stuck in straight away with the topic, mightn't we? Yeah. So for the past few weeks, we've been going through a kind of step-by-step journey. So we started with writing, then art, then colours, and then letters. Now, some people out there, and you know who you are, you may think that's all you need when you're putting together a comic.
Yeah.
And
It's
certainly-
an ongoing trend.
Yeah.
An editorless comic, I think.
There's a lot of people that only go through these stages themselves before publishing their work onto the world. But those people have probably also looked at the webcomic page they've posted or the first printed copy of their work, and I know I'm not alone in this, and immediately spotted something they missed. Whether it's a misspelled word, someone who has been coloured completely differently from panel to panel, or something like that. And it's in those moments when you truly come to appreciate the importance of editing, be it self or with an outside source, and the role of an editor themselves.
John Hickman's been talking about it recently, isn't he? Because he had every book they put out in the X-Men series, I think the first 3 had misspelt words and all that sort of thing in.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I suppose. We'll get onto that. I think that.
I guess that's more of a copy editor, but I'm not sure. In comics, does the editor pick that up as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's
depends
the
which
different
company,
there's
I
a
suppose.
different levels of editor, isn't there? Really, especially when you get to those bigger sort of publishing houses where it's going through several different sort of phases.
I know we have a commissioning editor as well as a sort of, issue by issue, book by book editor as well,
Yeah. And certainly, when it comes to small press and like self-published stuff, you don't necessarily have a figurehead editor. You wouldn't always necessarily call them that, but in some ways you do if you're running your books past someone for a read before you're going to publish it or things like that. So there's lots of different levels, and it's a word and title that most comic fans and just people in general are familiar with. But I think to start, and this is obviously a wide open question. Like I say, there's lots of different levels to it. But for everyone, for those that don't know, what does a comic book editor do?
Here you go.
Okay. Everything, essentially. You need to know the entire process of creating a comic, from the pitch all the way to the lettered and colored page. So when I edit a book, I'll take. Do you remember Kerrie Smith did a anthology collection a few years ago, Girls Like You?
Oh yes, it was my book of the year.
So
we've
talked about it quite a lot. Yeah,
I love it's my proudest book that I've ever worked on, and I loved everything about it. But it was very challenging because I think we worked with something in the area of 13 different artists and colorists to put the anthology together, and that was incredibly fun and really difficult because we were on a very tight deadline. So the very first thing you do when you're editing a book is you would talk to the writer, or if it's the artist who's writing, you talk to the artist about how you get your pitch down to a very simple, workable form. So if someone comes to you and says, I have this story I want to tell, it's about all these women's stories, but they're going to be, they're going to have a supernatural bent or a sci-fi bent, or maybe there'll be a bit of horror, and they're going to spread from all ages. So you might have someone at the end of their life, someone at the beginning of their life, some might be cartoony. That's all too wordy straight away. I can't take that to any kind of artist. I can't recommend anyone from my Rolodex of friends and collaborators and say, here's this pile of words. Can you do this? So you need to get it down to a very concise thing. Okay, you have an anthology. Bang. It's about women's issues. Bang. You're going to cover themes and genres as metaphor for the women's issues. Bang. There you go. So first story, what are you going to do? So the first story in that was illustrated by a guy called Brian Burke. And it was, Jesus, what was it called? It was called Cling. And it was about this woman who was being stalked in her kitchen by a friend who kept sending her Facebook messages. Hi, are you there? Are you there?
Yeah, that's creepy.
Are you there?
Yeah.
And then eventually he appears in the window. So to boil that down, when the picture's there, what Kerrie told me was, well, this happened to me, essentially. A friend kept getting on every 2 minutes before I could respond, and it started freaking me the fuck out. And I said, that's your pitch.
Yeah.
That's you just what you told me, type that, email that to the artist you want, and he'll get it. Because I think we've all been there where we've had someone just push a little bit too much and demand a response a little bit too quickly. But the important thing about pitching, not so much to a company, but to a collaborator, is to phrase your project in such a way that it'll speak to them quickly and efficiently. So you don't want to ramble like I'm rambling now. You want to say, horror story, constantly harassing with these Facebook messages, appears in the window at the end. Bang, done. So once you have that down, the next process, or the next step of the process for the editor, is to go over the script, which is, depending on who you're working with, is the easiest or the most difficult part, because we all know the famous Alan Moore scripting style, which is essentially prose written as a letter in very, very kind forms in all caps. So he's being very gentle but screaming at you, and also this one-page description took 10 pages. That's a nightmare to edit, because I know I've worked with enough artists, and I think we all have at this point, that that if you hand an artist 15 pages for a 5-panel page, they're not going to read it. They're going to highlight keywords.
Yeah, which is what Gibbons did, wasn't it? He went with the highlighter, read it once, and then just got the bits he needed.
And you have to, because for every page, or for every 20 pages that you can put together as a writer, an artist is probably only going to be able to pencil a page in that time.
Yeah.
And the longer you make your script, and the more difficult and complex and convoluted you make your script, the longer it's going to take them to disseminate the important information.
And I think this might be something, an issue that you might see when people are used to writing prose. Like, people come from short stories or novel writing or whatever, and then they step into the comics realm. But it's a completely different set of rules, isn't it? So, and the editor has to be the go-between and the sort of they have to steer the ship a lot of the time.
Well, that's essentially it. So when I work with someone who's never made a comic before, I do some mentorship stuff for people trying to break in and make their first book, because the last thing that I want anyone who's genuinely showing an interest in the medium to do is to get the reputation of being, this is that fucker who's going to give me 400 pages of shit to write a 4-page comic.
Right.
So the best thing you can do as an editor is to say, right, the first thing that I was told when I started making comics is you should try to make your page description one A4 page of script. It can go a little bit over, it can go a little bit under, but if you're only writing one A4 page of script, you're only putting in the very essential information. Now, obviously, if you're a sadist and you've got a 14-panel page, you're not going to be able to fit that into one page of script. It's going to go over 2 or 3. Yeah. But if you've got your standard comics page, especially at the indie level where we all work, you're going to have between 3 and 7 panels, usually settling in around 4 or 5.
This is going to sound like a crazy question. This is for for everyone. Like, what font size should that be? Because like I've written scripts, and sometimes there's dialogue backwards and forwards between people, and I try to get that like you say, a page of a comic on an A4 page. But sometimes if I'm getting to panel 7, panel 8, and there's been some discussions, or descriptions that not over the top. I'm not talking massive prose stuff, but sometimes I just go over that 1-page barrier and always think, it feels like.
Can I reduce it to a 0.10 or something? Yeah.
But.
Yeah. See, it goes back to when people actually drew on drawing boards. I know some people still do it, so that the artist could print off the page and literally have it right next to them as they were drawing. I think that's kind of, for me, but now it sort of serves the same purpose where they can have it on the screen in one go. Yeah. And I think
Well, an artist can visualize what they're doing. If they have the full thing in front of them in one go, they're going to be able to visualize and lay out the whole page without having to refer back and forth, which is why it's also really important if you're a writer to slap on the panel count at the top of every script page you put in. Page 1, 5 panels. Because if you say page 1, panel 1, there's a glorious sunset over the bridge. The sun is reflecting in the water and it's casting up a fiery red light, wankety wankety wank. And the artist is going
to... Blimey, you've read my scripts.
I know. I loved it. I especially loved the wankety wank. It was
back to the trousers.
But the artist is going to see this wonderful description of this bridge, and they're going to say, "Cool, that's a splash page." Yeah. And then they're going to look down, and at the end of the page, crammed in under this, 500 words of prose, you're going to have panel 2, John walks over bridge. Panel 3, John picks up cat. Panel 4, John pets cat. Panel 5, John walks across bridge more. And all of a sudden, the artist has gone from having a beautiful splash image in their mind that they might have been planning out just from reading your prose, to now going, well, now this is a 5-panel page. All I can do with this is as an establishing shot. So I have to shrink everything down. I also have to make the character and the cat more important than what you as a writer have spent so long.
It says panel 6, an army attack the cat.
All on horseback, charging from the sun on a beam.
That's what you said when I'm thumbnailing pages. I always like page number top left and then read through the script like quickly to clock how many panels. And you kind of, I guess as an artist, you got a writer, you got to try and get the one panel that really matters.
If it's a thematic thing, like the 9-panel thing that they've been using in Mr. Miracle and has been copied all over the place now, or came from Watchmen, kind of. I think give it in that thematic. This is an equal 9-panel grid, 3 along the top. It's almost like that. I think that's a really good thing to establish when you're writing a script straight away. Underneath, I usually write stuff like that. Underneath page 2, I reckon this is a big splash page. There's a small indent picture bottom left.
Yeah, that's
it's almost like that. That's kind of how I go with it. Yeah,
I think that's the best way to work because then you have all the technical information that the artist is going to need. It's there. It's not hidden amongst the prose. It's not hidden amongst the panel description.
Yeah.
This is going to be a big splash with an indent panel, and then the artist can visualize and work off of what you've plotted without having to dig it out of a pile of words.
If you don't mind just rewinding slightly to what we're saying here is...
You want the font size?
No, not that, man. No.
So I do have an answer to the font size.
Oh, go on. Just quickly, go on.
So whenever I get a script, the very first thing I do is I run it through Word and I resize everything to Garamond 12.
There you go, 12, that's what I use. Good man. Okay. Yeah. But just quickly, we've sort of jumped into the process straight away. I wanted to ask just a little tiny bit about... because there's a number of ways you can be hired or used or be approached to be an editor.
Absolutely.
And one of them is from the offset. So the germ of the idea comes into the publisher. He gets an editor to meet up with the artist or meet up with the writer or the writer-artist, whoever it's going to be, and you work it from then. So is that how you've always worked, or have you had to come into something halfway through? Something they said they need an editor on this. Fuck me, it's going nowhere. What's happening?
A lot of what I've done in terms of I've done a lot of sort of uncredited work because it's been last minute coming in, a bit of script doctoring, which it's kind of in the realm of editing, but it's very different.
Well, I kind of see. I've had to do that as well recently, a couple of times actually, from an editing point of view. And I think there's a creative element. That's where the creative element for an editor comes in, almost unofficially, doesn't it? You have a big, sometimes more than you would normally input into the script, don't you? You think?
So I try to bring my voice in as little as possible into a script. Like when I would always rather, as an editor, to be approached first as a script editor.
Okay.
Because if you come at me with a script and I can read your script and I can say this is a 29-page script, it could be a 22-page script, and also there are devices you use that you overuse that we can cut out, or you maybe have 10 splash pages when you only need one splash page. Small things like that. That's I think the better use of an editor than what can sometimes happen, which is when you have a writer who gets lost in their own ideas and they're too close to the project to see how they can improve it.
Exactly.
So that's when, like, someone like yourself, myself, might get called in to do, what is unfortunately called script doctoring.
And I think that's one of the problems we face. I think that's something we face in the small press is because we're kind of one or two man bands, aren't we, creating these comics? You do sometimes get a little lost, and you get a bit too in love with sequences that you could really do without and stuff like that. And you almost need someone like a script editor to come in and say, look, this is not working here. You've got no action up front. There's no action till the last 3 pages. There's all that sort of thing. There's little things depending on the project that you need that can be pointed out.
Well, obviously, because when you come in as a writer and you're creating something and it's your idea and it's a story that's been germinating in your mind for so long, you're going to fixate on certain ideas and certain structures, certain narrative twists, and maybe sequences that you think are absolutely necessary because they've been in your mind forever. But as soon as a fresh set of eyes goes on that, they might say, this visual gag isn't good. It doesn't need to be there. It doesn't work. This fight sequence doesn't need to run 6 pages. You can do it in 2. You can do it in 3. Or the other great one that I see a lot of, especially in first time writers, is they do 5 panels every page, 5 panels.
Okay. Yeah.
And you have to sit them down, and you'll have to say the reason that you're struggling to get this across is you're boring yourself when you're writing this. Because you're going panel 1, panel 2, and then panel 1, panel 2, panel 3, panel 4, panel 5, and you go again and again over 20, 22, 26, however many pages you're doing. But it's the same sequence, it's the same beat, it's the same ratio. You're not challenging yourself or changing the pace of the story.
Yeah.
And then that creates a further problem.
It's boring to the reader, man, as well,
That's it, because the onus then goes from the writer who's just been writing these 5 panels over and over again to the artist who needs to vary how those pages come together. Because if you go 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2 for 26 pages, I've read a comic like that, and I can't tell you the title or how it looked. I just remember that there were 7 pages that were 2, 1, 2 structure in a row, and I had to put it down. I couldn't I couldn't focus on what was happening. I was just looking at the exact same pages over and over again.
Yeah.
And that'll kill a reader.
Have a flourish, man, as well. Have a real artistic flourish. It's not by rote. We should never be writing anything by rote, And
no,
I kind of get the sense of that, The other thing I'm finding at the moment is overwriting. That's something I really find as an editor I'm having to sort of point out to people is exposition and overwriting when you've got the art to tell the story as well sometimes. People don't always speak in long sequences. I know I do. People don't always speak in long sequences. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I would always, from a writing perspective especially, I would always try to convince the writer to trust the artist to do your storytelling for you. Like if you have a caption balloon, so say you have a character, Johnny. Johnny's a boxer. Johnny throws a left hook and knocks out the champion. The last thing you want your caption box to read is Johnny knocks out the champion. You should, at the very least, you should have. Johnny was thinking at this point that he'd left the oven on and his house might burn to the ground.
Yeah.
Because at least then you're creating a juxtaposition between the word and the image. Yeah. But if you, I'm a big fan of silent fight scenes. I think that's
people
just
don't talk during fights. I've been in a number of fights in my life, I'd like to admit, but I've never really had a conversation with the geezer I'm fighting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Only time I've said something is that, please, Dad, stop. Threw punches outside the pub. But no, you're right. I never really do that. It really sticks out.
But also, with that in mind, I mean, I think we all agree that the silent fight scenes are amazing. But and they're glorious. Like when you've got a good artist, or if you're an artist that likes drawing action and stuff, it's so much fun to do. But it's knowing when to pull your punches with that as well, isn't it? I mean, there was I love fight scenes, but you can go on too long with them in a comic book.
Yeah.
There was one comic book.
You're going to say Nemesis?
No, I'm not going to say Nemesis. I'm going to say Is it Shaolin Cowboy?
Oh, Shaolin Cowboy. It's one giant fight scene over 60 pages.
One giant fight scene over 24 pages or whatever.
Was it 24 pages?
Yeah.
I think there's 3 issues of it now as well. So it's
Jeff
3
Darrow,
issues.
and it is just 12 double-page spreads. He's in the middle, and he's just killing zombies. He's surrounded by zombies, and he's killing zombies.
But that's Jeff Darrow putting his fingers up. That's not actually fighting. It's just Jeff Darrow putting his one finger up at the other, going, "Look what I'm doing."
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. It's an interesting exercise. Let's face it. But I wouldn't see it all the time.
And to be honest, I'm still talking about it, even though I did think. I mean, I'm glad I didn't buy the issue. One of my friends bought it, and I literally 5 seconds flicked through, knew what it was, and that was it. If you're a Jeff Darrow fan, you probably love looking over those pages. Yeah. But as a narrative comic storytelling structure, that did nothing for me.
But that's the same with anything, man. It can be like 2 people talking on a couch for 22 pages. You could still do my Sweden.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
Because it's got to go somewhere, isn't it?
Yeah. For as many fans as Shaolin Cowboy would have, just for this bombastic visual treat, and it looks gorgeous. If every single book that featured a fight was 20-odd pages of double-page spread fighting, it would suck all of the joy out of everything. Because it would all be the same.
You can only take so much porn. You know, you need a story. You know what I mean with it? That's how I see it.
I was going to reference the Star Wars films, the original trilogy and the prequels. In the original trilogy, there's only a lightsaber fight when like it's a real big deal, and like some massive drama happens. Whereas in the prequels, there's loads of lightsaber fights, and they're mainly kind of just thrown in there for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's background dressing.
Yeah. I mean, like in A New Hope, like Obi-Wan dies. In the second one, you find out Vader is Luke's father.
Sorry, Tony. Spoilers.
So like real big drama moments, and like if that drama moment's like someone having a conversation with their partner on the couch, or like a culmination of like a fight scene, if that drama's not there and it's just a pointless fight, it's kind of meaningless. It's nothing to get excited about.
Well, I mean, because a fight in and of itself, if you look at any kind of narrative. A fight without context, it might be exciting for a minute. Take professional wrestling, right? Which I'm sorry, but we're doing it.
Yes. Sorry.
A money match is going to be what happened recently. Brock Lesnar has held the Universal Championship for 1,000 years, and he's never turned up on TV because he gets paid $1 million a day to sleep. Yeah. So we need to take the belt off him. What do? You have the little guy who's the most athletic, flippy guy in the world, who's really popular, who's marrying the Irish girl who everyone loves. We're gonna make him the big deal, and the big story is gonna be he can't beat this guy, but he has to do it for the good of the company. And you build the whole story around this fight. It's not the fight that matters; it's that for the good of the company, this guy has to win. He's giving up £100. He's giving up 10 years experience, but for the good of the company. He's going to go out there and he's going to win. And then the last promo he cuts, the last speech he gives before the fight is, it doesn't matter what you do, I'm going to kick your ass. And that creates a context and an intrigue for the fight.
Yeah, I mean, would you have to go in, like, say an artist wrote a sequence like that and they'd added unnecessary words in the script, and the artist had kind of like done such a great job that those words would be redundant, would you then go to the writer and say, look, you can strip all this out, it's not needed?
So often, I'm very lucky in that I've often ended up editing on projects with Kerrie Smith as the letterer, and she and I share an office. So it's really, really easy for her to take a page of, say, in a fight scene in particular, that just looks stunning, beautiful artwork, and she'll turn around and she'll smack the back of my chair. I'll say, what? And she'll say, look at this page. That's a great page, yeah. And I said, now look at this page after I put all these speech balloons on it. I'll say, right. Yeah. So the background's dead. We can only see one of the 17 characters that the poor artist has drawn, and we can't guide the reader's eye because there's too much talk. Yeah. And in that context, you absolutely go back to the writer. But if it ever gets to the stage where you're looking at a script page with a lot of beautiful visual description and a lot of heavy dialogue in an action-heavy sequence, as an editor, you should straight away go, hey, buddy, we need more pages, we need more panels to get what you want to get done here, or we need to cut down on it.
So essentially, the editor has to kind of come in every time. So when the writer does the script, when the artist brings in the pages, and when the letterer does their part of it, get involved at every point of it and sort of say yay or nay.
Depending on the project and depending on the people I'm dealing with, I like to see page by page. So as soon as you finish the page, please send it to me. Not colours. I want to see line work, and then I want to see colours.
I like to work from layouts first.
Okay.
If the artist can send me layouts, I don't care how rough they are, I can compare them to the script. And if I can see where the sequence is going, even if it's stick figures and backgrounds that are just a bit of Tipex dotted around or even just written into the back, if I can see where everything's going to fit, where the characters are going to be placed, if I can make sure the first speaker on every main panel is going to be on the left-hand side, if I can make sure when we need an establishing shot, you've put in an establishing shot, I don't mind working from layouts.
Do you, from a practical point of view, Hugo, do you share a Dropbox or whatever kind of shared space with the artist? Do you share that with the writer at the same time? Yeah. Everyone, okay. So do you communicate with them each separately, or is it always a group communication?
So I stagger it. So the first thing I'll do, because and this is a philosophical thing for me. Yeah. My job as the editor is to facilitate everyone's voice. Right? So if the artist turns around to me and says, this writer is pissing me off, he keeps asking for me to do more and more, and it's not what I want to do with this sequence, but he keeps insisting on this. Yeah. If that's in a group chat, and writer can see that artist is just dragging his name and hating working with him, that's something that'll carry over. But if I turn around to the writer and I say, hey, buddy, what if we do this? It might look better this way. You can hate me all you want. That's fine. So long as you don't hate your collaborator, the person who...
I think you're right, man.
When the book is finished.
We got to take, as an editor, you've got to take the punches sometimes, I think, haven't
100%.
you? Yeah. I think there's a sort of vague, sort of not chain of command's the wrong thing to say, but there's a sort of vague sort of pecking order in relation to when things come in. So when it's working in a group, that's fine. But if a page is ready, it comes to the editor. It doesn't go to the writer. The writer doesn't decide because he's not the editor. Do you know what I mean? I think I don't mind sharing it with the writer, but the edits should be done by the editor. That's his job. That's kind of how I see it. I don't know what you think.
So I'll give you a good example. When I work with Carlos Pedro, who is the artist on Lad the Homecoming, he will, because we've done a few pitches together as well with my writing and his drawing. So he knows exactly how I work, and I know exactly how he works. So the first thing he'll do is he'll send me a layout. Yeah. And I'll go, cool, double check. All the speakers speaking first on the left-hand side, unless it's absolutely necessary to move them somewhere else. Okay, cool, we'll go on. Second thing, you've added 3 panels here. Why? Because Carlos is mad for adding panels. And we go, well, I felt that if we showed this sequence of movement, we could add some intensity, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you know what? I'm not going to disagree with you. It's a good idea. It's not going to change the dialogue order. It's not going to add too much work for the writer. I'm going to allow it. Go, get me the pencils. He'll show me the pencils. Oh, okay, pencils are looking good. Or, on the very rare occasion where, Carlos doesn't do an amazing page, I'll say, maybe you could tweak that. And then he'll fix it, and it'll take him 10 minutes, and it'll be amazing. Anyway, and then he'll usually ask, so is this cool to show to Umar Dita, the writer? And I'll say, yeah, this is the one, show it to him. Yeah. And then Carlos will share that to a group chat. And everyone, so that would be, myself, Umar, Carlos, Kerrie, and Dervla, we're all in that same group chat. Yeah. And they'll see the page. Umar will usually be the first person to respond anyway, because obviously this is his book, it's his baby. He's excited to see the updates coming in. Yeah. But anyone there can give a little bit of feedback. And again, thankfully in this particular group, the feedback is broadly positive.
Yeah, but also like you say there's lots of stuff that necessarily Umar doesn't need to see. He doesn't need to see these conversations that you have. I mean, they're important conversations. No, absolutely not. Yeah, but everyone within that group chat is getting the important information that they need to move everything forward. The individual conversations that are between writer and editor, or writer and artist, they can all be done separately as long as everything comes together in that one.
And there's too many chefs occasionally theory around this, and it takes ages for anything to be decided. And kind of it's your job to decide on stuff, isn't it? Really,
as the editor,
some things are fait accompli, aren't they? When you say, "Look, this is the best thing," you decide. You'll listen to people discussing it with you, but it's easier to go with that, I think, sometimes.
Yeah.
And this is why I say you're there to facilitate as an editor, because you can have two different visions from two different creators that are both genius, perfect, exactly what they need to be, but they might not mesh. So you need to hear the writer's idea and the artist's idea, and you need to then decide from what you've heard, from what you've seen, maybe in a rough layout or a thumbnail, if the writer's idea is actually going to be better than what the artist is suggesting to change, or if you need to go back to the artist and say, look, this is cool, I love the enthusiasm, but in this instance, we are going to go with the script. You're going to have to take out the extra moving panels. And the reason we're going to do that, and it's always very important to just to be honest and vocal with your reasoning as well. If you come in as a tyrant, you're going to make no friends, because as an editor, you're sort of a perennial outsider. You're never really part of the team. You're in the team, you're on the team, but you're not someone.
You're a bit an uncredited. I see ourselves as uncredited heroes. Yeah,
I will take that.
Heroes, Can I just rewind a slight bit? And this is very applicable to what you're saying here. Is when you start a new project, the comics is a worldwide phenomenon now, and we all collaborate with people who we'll probably never meet, often in person, will we? Do you make a point of having some kind of verbal do you get them all on a Skype call, or do you introduce yourself to them, or is it I'm the editor, this is what I've done in the past, this is the way I'd like to be? Do you do a bit of that at all? Or
so the very first thing I do is I try to determine whether people prefer to talk through WhatsApp, through Skype, or through email, because a lot of people will not want to talk in person when they can just send an email. And the last thing that you want to do is inconvenience someone who might be squeezing you in between deadlines.
Oh, that also helps, I guess, when you're talking to people from other countries and English isn't necessarily their first language, or vice versa.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all to do with, again, consideration and just facilitating what everyone needs. So it's always good. So when Carlos and I worked on a pitch a couple of years ago, I knew the perfect colours for the gig, and I knew she was local in Ireland, and I knew that the best way to get the whole team together was to get everyone to get. Well, unfortunately, Carlos lives in Portugal this afternoon.
Okay, all right. Fine.
There's nothing we can do there. But the best thing to do was to get us all to sit down in a group chat, cameras on, everyone say hi, quickly go over the story, quickly go over the deadlines, the expectations, and that's a big thing that no one talks about. Managing your expectations. We will circle back to that because it's important. But once you have all of that out there, if it's quicker to speak and just meet everybody face to face, and then maybe you'll bump into each other at a convention in a few months' time, and now we're all familiar, and there's no awkward, do we handshake, do we hug, oh God, what do we do?
Kiss.
I always go for the kiss. You know that, Tony. Every time I see you.
Yeah, that's why I always collaborate with you.
Yeah.
So what are some of the techniques that can be employed in say, a member of the team who isn't maybe doing as well as they should, or what you think they're capable of?
Yeah, that's a good one.
It depends on the team member. Specifically, like, this is why I like to work with people who I know on a personal level.
Yeah,
so you've got to cater the way you deal with people to how they are sometimes, I think, as well.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So if you don't know... how do I say this without absolutely annihilating someone's career? If
the time you work with John Byrne. Go on, it's fine.
Yeah, okay. So, let me tell you about this motherfucker. No, but so say you meet an artist and they're fabulous, and their portfolio is perfect, and they have a neo-noir style where they do a lot of Mignola-esque heavy shading. Their perspective is always on point, and you're looking through their, and you're, God, there's no way you can't be a professional. And they turn around and they say, let's be extremely generous here. And they say, I'm £60 a page. And you say, great, cool. I've just the project for you. There's this guy I know. He's writing this neo-noir book. He needs someone who does heavy shadow work. Industry standard is 1 page per day. Can you meet that? And they'll say yes. And you say, great, this is perfect. Let's go. And then things slow down.
Yeah.
So what's going on? Well, I need a couple of weeks. What for? Character designs, world building, all this. Oh, absolutely, no problem. I'll talk to the team. We'll set everything back a couple of weeks. And then things slow down again. You're not getting the concepts. You're not getting the character turnarounds. Yep. You're then getting it in the neck from the writer who you're trying to, calm down, because the last thing you want is, key assets being your writer, your artist, or your writer, your colorist, your artist, your letterer, anyone in the actual creative team sniping at each other. And you go, what's going on? I don't think I can handle a page a day. Cool. Okay. We should have worked this out long before we set a deadline.
Yeah.
And again, that's why getting to know someone and always treating honestly with everyone, especially at small press level. If you treat honestly with your team, you can do amazing things.
There's various complications that come out of that, and I feel for you around that, man. I've experienced something similar reasonably recently. Is the fact that a lot of our projects now are funded by Kickstarter.
Yes.
So there's an expectation of the customer, the pledger on Kickstarter, to get a product that is visually similar to the one that is advertised on the Kickstarter. So if you do have, for what you've done, that example there about an artist who's clearly flaky in some way, there's something your hackles go up. You begin to suspect something's going on, don't you?
Oh, I mean, it's like the clue was there. God, you're a professional. Why aren't you a professional? Well, I don't know.
Yeah, not sure, because I have to do a lot of world building. The problem is it's got to be that guy or that girl, isn't it? It's got to be that person, because it's not as advertised.
So usually what happens, or what has happened, and specifically in my experience, this is happening because this person has never worked in a team before in comics. Maybe they've come from animation, maybe they've come from fine art, maybe they've come from game design, maybe they've just spent their entire lives as character designers or storyboard artists, which is a very different skill from a comic book artist. And when you say to them, page a day, and they think to themselves, in the case of a storyboard artist, sure, I do 20 boards in an hour. That's fine, page a day. And then they realize that I'm actually heavily inking every single shadow after carving it out with the finest of nib pens, and that's taking me 4 hours. And then I cross-hatch everyone. I mean, coloring is a different beast altogether. Like a very, very good colorist can handle multiple pages of multiple projects in a day.
Yeah.
But looking at the level, again, because I do want to focus this more on the small press, because what I love about this series is that we're helping people who are making their first book make it the right way. So at the small press level, if you have a colorist who can do the work well, who can present the tone, the color theory, and the storytelling you need through the colors, and it all comes out professionally, and they know how printing works, and they know the difference between RGB and CMYK, and why you can print one and not the other. When you're printing, dear God, don't put your K levels up so high the whole page comes out black. And if you can find this colorist, and if they say to you, I can color, I'm not a professional, I can't do 400 pages a day, I can do 2 pages a day. You, as an editor, need to take that to the team, and then you go, I found the perfect colorist. But this is a 20-page book. They can color 2 pages a day. That means we're going to get, at the very minimum, the colored pages in 15 days, because you have to account for needing a day off. You have to account for getting sick.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah. I'd bite his hand off, or bite her hand off if you did that at the moment,
I guess one of the things I've learned definitely about small press is that when it's people's first gig, they not always, but there's a large proportion of people who, like as you mentioned, kind of underestimate the task ahead of them. It's tricky, and when they say a page a day, and I've seen people, that's not a problem, and then just absolutely flounder and don't get it. It's not frustrating, but it's like it's one of those things you've got to kind of do it. And if I was going to hire an artist to do a comic, I would want to see that they've at least got like a couple of pages under the belt of another project or something, be it only an anthology.
So this is actually a really interesting problem that comes up a lot for people's first comics, and that is, how can you, the person hiring, right, be you the writer, the editor, the curator of the anthology, whatever your position is, do your due diligence on someone who's just starting out. Now, I'm not going to preach too much, but obviously in the ideal world, making an indie comic, everyone gets paid.
Yeah.
And everyone gets, not an amazing rate, but everyone gets paid a rate that, reflects the value of what they brought to the book. So in my view, a fair rate for a good artist is anything over £60. And that's looking at like, I did a book with Ahmed Rafat, Death by Service. And when he told me he was going to charge me £60 a page for the 4 pages, I nearly wept because his stuff is amazing. It's just outstanding.
What's his email?
But obviously, you know, other artists will charge more. You know, you can't. I can't thread a number and say everyone charge £60, no more, because you need to know your own value as a creator. But in the ideal world, everyone gets paid. And if you're doing your first comic, and if you're the one writing the script and driving the project, you need to pay everyone, including yourself, whether that be through sales or whatever. You need to pay everyone. But the problem a lot of people have is, especially when they do their first book, they go, okay, if we can get this out for this convention, then I can print this many copies and I can sell this many copies, then we'll go to this convention. Okay, cool. When is the convention? The convention in 40 days. You're not getting that comic out in 40 days.
No
You're
way.
not. Because you need to accept that you're working maybe with a first-time artist. Now, you can even accept that it's 2 days a page and you'll get it finished just on the deadline. But then you might need... There might be a redraft of the page. Something might go horribly wrong. Maybe the artist works traditionally and they set fire to their studio. I don't know. Their dog eats their homework. It could be anything.
Oh, you hear loads of stories about... there's a whole 2000 AD stories that had to be redrawn because they got lost in the post. There's all, you know, there's things that do happen, you know. Yeah.
And so what my standard rule when I start this is make sure you have your budget sorted. And the second thing you do is make sure your deadline is reasonable and you have at least a 10-day cushion at the end of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're working with, say, Comics Printing UK with Rich, he will tell you when your deadline is. He will be very honest, very open, very helpful. And he will hold your hand through the process unless you fuck up the bleeds on the page you send him, and then he'll send the killers after you. And that's
make
fine.
you bleed.
Exactly. It's great. It's the underground death cult of comics making. But if he gives you a deadline and he says, okay, cool, your deadline's September 15th, that's when I can slot you in for printing. That means I can do this with a big batch of books and you'll get it for Thought Bubble. You can say, cool, that's great. Immediately, you need to tell your team, be they the artist, the letterer, the colorist, the editor, if you're the writer, if you're the editor, you tell the writer, everything needs to be finished in the digital pamphlet by the 5th. Because if you're all working towards the 5th, one thing goes wrong. Okay, cool. This might be a day late. One thing goes wrong. This might be 2 days late. But at least then no one needs to panic and just have that. We got to contact the printer. We have to maybe rethink about the print run. We have to go to a more expensive printer because they're the only one left who hasn't got a full docket to print on the 2nd of October.
Do you ever use? Sorry, man. Yeah. Do you ever use we at No Brow we have like shared calendars which are really useful because they show stuff like that. You know, you can show stuff that we need to get done. We need to order stock. You know, all sorts of things. Do you use any sort of online calendars or for Little Heroes? We use Notion, which is one of these sort of message board like pinboard online things. Do you use anything like that, an app or anything?
No, but I think I will. That's a really good. I do everything by hand. So I have on my desk by my computer I have my notebook, and I turn the page and there's my tasks for the day. And I turn the page and there's my tasks for the day. And if a deadline's there, it's in massive letters in red.
The rest of the notebook is like the serial killer from Seven. It's just like loads of like scribbles.
I mean, trust me, Hugo, I'm a Luddite, worse than anyone you've probably ever met. But I actually find these calendar apps quite useful. And you can add stuff and take stuff away, and even just stuff like your artist is on holiday, or your artist is going to be at this convention, or there's little useful things we find from it.
The interesting thing you brought up there as well is if you can sync up conventions, especially near print run time when the comic's new and it's hot. Yeah. If you can get the team around at different conventions, you can make your life 1,000 times easier.
I mean, we do stuff like we'll say, "Oh, Americana's out that week. Which convention are you at?" And they don't need to ask me. They can look to see I'm at Hackney Zine Fair or something. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's useful.
Oh, there you go. There's a tip I learned today.
There you go.
I always learn something from this podcast.
Thank you, man. Oh God, I hate to think what, but yeah, thank you.
We'll never catch a bus with Dan Butcher.
Or do.
Yeah. I'm never usually on the bus, so that's no problem.
But it's when he is on the bus, you need to be careful.
Yeah.
Watching you from the back. A finger
He's always above the
tracing his
wheel.
lip.
Always sit above the wheel.
Speaking of experience there, Tony.
I was chatting to Satu, who's one of our sort of senior editors at No Brow the other day, and she was saying, we were sort of chatting a bit about this show really, and the sort of things that she thought were important. And one of the main things she said was always cater and take some notice of what the person you are dealing with is like, and 100%. How you give criticism, encouragement, or just general sort of directions, and she said that's the most important thing. And she was saying what you were saying there is you get to know the person really, quite an interesting way when you're working with them on a project like this, I think.
Oh, hugely, because it's a different part of their personality than you'll ever see. So we as humans, this is fucking RC, I'm sorry, but we as people, we have this thing called an artifice. It's what we project to the world. When we go out there, we want to be perceived a certain way, we behave a certain way.
Yeah.
And if you, as an editor, take that artifice at face value, you've played yourself. Because that's not what anyone is really like down when they're at a deadline and it's 4 a.m. at the copy machine and they're jittery on coffee. That's not what they're like. So you could have the strongest person in the world face-to-face in public and nothing phases them. And you can say, motherfucker, where are my pages? And you'll go, they're on the way, motherfucker. Great, let's do this. 4 a.m. at the copy machine, the day of the deadline. Motherfucker, where are my pages? Look, I'm doing my best. Okay, Jesus, why are you always so mean?
Yeah, everyone gets a bit snarky, don't they? Everyone gets a bit narky, rather. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Your job is to not let it get to that phase. You need to get in behind the artifice very, very early on and make sure that the person you're dealing with is the person that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Like, I can tell you from when I work with editors, especially when Kerrie edits my work, she knows that the best way to deal with me is to take none of my bullshit. Because I will get up on my bullshit and I will argue for points that I know don't matter. I know that anything I'm arguing, I just want to argue because you're making me change my thing and I don't want to change my thing.
Yeah.
And she'll just sit there, blank face me and go, are you going to change it? Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. I know, but just... But
I think there's something. I was chatting to another one of the editors there, and she was saying to me, you can be really frustrated with a creator. You can feel like saying, for fuck's sake, mate, pull your finger out and get on with it, will you, geezer? She said, but your email will say, oh, I love that you've spent all this time working on it, but don't forget, we've got the deadline cut. It's almost like that. To the right person, that's the better thing to do. It's gentle
reinforcement with a lot of people, especially in, like, because what we do is it's a creative medium, We're not obviously the dream is to work for Marvel, for DC, for Humanoids, for anyone where you can make a living from this. But at the moment, at this level, at the independent level, we're not a giant corporate entity, right? We are a lot of people trying to tell our stories in the best way that we can. And that's an emotional experience. That can be very, very taxing on the self. So if you have, Hugo, the editor, banging on your door, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. No excuses, hurry up. You're not going to like me. You're not going to like the book. You're not going to do your best work. But if you have Hugo, the editor, hey, buddy, what's going on? That's cool, man. What ideas have you got? Fucking awesome. When can I expect the pages? Look, I get that, but the artist kind of needs at least the first 5 by Wednesday so they can, set up the layout so I can see the shit
sandwich. It's the old shit sandwich theory, isn't it? Oh, mate, I'm loving what you're doing on this book, but don't forget the deadline is Friday, for God's sake. By the way, loving the pages. Bye. It's almost like
that's it.
Open and leave with a positive note, but let them know what you want. I think sometimes works.
It's also that being truthful and kind of on the level and saying stuff as it is, but not being kind of too brutal with it. Like if Friday's the deadline, and no kind of fudging it. You got to kind of be real. I think the worst thing you can do, like in a group setup, is when you ghost someone and they don't respond to communications. They don't appear to be active, and it's like, oh my god, what the fuck's this person doing? Because instantly you could jump to the worst conclusions ever. That
I would actually
sitting back watching TV or not doing the work.
Yeah,
I would come in on that. And I would say, in those instances, and again, this is from personal experience, and I won't name names, but I hate to say it, you do have to jump to the worst conclusion. And that's the point when you need to ring the person, be they the writer who's late with a script, the artist who's been on this page for 2 weeks, not 2 days. the colorist who maybe, you know, had a deadline for another book and they were going to do this one after, and maybe you gave them an extra couple of days, but you're not so sure they're going to come good, and this is due at the printer pretty soon. So I'll give you a great example. The cover for Girls Like You was drawn by Ruth Redmond, who is the colorist on, I think, Deadpool at the moment. But she's also just a spectacular artist. She does a really cool style, and she 100% got what we wanted with the cutesy hiding the violent thing for the cover. And she told me before we went to Mexico that she had a deadline, another deadline, and then she'd do the cover. Cool, happy days. We went to Mexico, great trip. On the way back, I'm looking at my Dropbox, still no cover. So I'm now chasing down this cover between flights from Mexico to Texas to Newark every few hours. Where is my cover? Please, 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 please. Where is my cover? Oh my God, we're going to print an hour and a half after we land. Where is my cover? And then eventually, of course, the cover comes in. It's perfect. It's fine. Everything's absolutely fine. But because Ruth had told me ahead of time, deadline, this thing, I wasn't immediately going, I have to drop.
Yeah, we know she's doing something before this. Yeah. It will always play in your mind a bit, won't it? And you'll understand more. I agree. I think actually phoning someone for the kid, let's call them kids these days, Hugo. Bearing in mind I'm in my late 60s.
You don't look a day over 90.
Thanks. Kids these days don't speak to anyone, do they? Their phone bills are very low, but they text all the time, don't they? WhatsApp and text and Snapchat and all these sort of things. But to put a phone call into someone, I've had it before where we've had someone late, and I've had a chat with the publisher, and I've said, look, if we don't hear from this artist by Friday, I will ring them. And it's almost, there's a little bit of weight to a phone call, no matter how nicely it's done. Things sometimes, you know.
Well, once you're speaking to someone, there's no, okay, all the best.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. I've read
it. Yeah.
Like you can't. It's more difficult to hide your tone in a conversation, in a spoken conversation, than it is in text. Yeah. So if I ring you and you're, hey, Jesus, okay, all right, I'm immediately going to know you're anxious, you're overworked, you're stressed, you can't do it. You needed to tell me 3 weeks ago you can't do the deadline, and now we're fucked.
Yeah.
As opposed to the email, which will say, I'm just a bit behind, not to worry, mate.
Yeah. It's like if your mate says, how are you? And you're the most fucked off you've ever been, but you can just about manage to put a smiley face, thumbs up emoji on the text. Yeah, they'll never know. Do you know what I mean? It's the same, isn't it? You know.
Yeah. One of the other issues of a comic, say you're halfway through, you like 20-page comic, 10 pages in, and the artist suddenly goes dark or gets flaky. Yeah. It's like, you're 10 pages in now of an art style. You can't just flick out. Like a colorist could step in arguably for another colorist. Same with a letterer, but
especially if you're paying as the pages come in sometimes.
Yeah.
So
that's another thing.
In that instance, if an artist quits a project before the work is done, my hope would be just from, again, we're all in this together in indie comics. Right? We all owe a duty of care to each other because none of us are millionaires.
Yeah.
So if you're going to drop my project, I'm going to hope, at the very least, you'll give me good notice. And if you don't give me good notice, you'll chuck me a partial refund so I can get those pages redrawn.
Yeah.
Because I can't go from having Mike Mignola drawing my page to having Jeff Darrow draw my page. It's not that they're not great artists. It's that if you suddenly change, if you have that dissonant break between the two sections, it
ruins the reading experience, doesn't it? Exactly. It really does.
Definitely.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Interesting.
And it's hard getting money back off people as well.
Yeah.
I've got to tell you,
it's near impossible. And this is a lot of what I try to do when I manage, when you edit, you're managing, and it's in the ideal world, as an editor, the publisher has everything taken care of, and you're there to make sure that the creatives that you're working with are bringing their best work forward. In the real world of indie comics, you're probably doing a lot of the work of the publisher. You're probably handling a lot of the correspondence.
Yeah.
You might even be reaching out to podcasts, to news sites about your book to promote it.
Yeah, and you're also going to the publisher for funding and financing, and what do you think about this deadline? As an editor, some things are not in your responsibility to say if you are working with a publisher. Whenever I work with a publisher and say, look, the deadlines, I don't think we're going to meet the deadline. What do you think about extending it by this much? Then that's kind of a publisher's, because he's balancing the checkbook about how much money he can spend at the printers and stuff like that, I think, Yeah, very much so.
But bringing it back down to, someone an artist dropping midway through a project.
Yeah.
If you need to mitigate that as an editor, because that disaster, it might not be your fault, but that's going to fall within your purview.
Yeah.
So whether you go to the artist and you say, look, buddy, your mate, the writer, paid you $60 a page for 20 pages, and they paid you half up front, and you've done a quarter of the work. Is there any way you can turf back for the work you haven't done? Or is there any way we can rework this deadline so you can come back and finish it? Now, sometimes that artist, and thank God it's not happened to me or on a project that I've even come in to just help on or consult with. But sometimes on a project you won't get a response. The person's gone.
Yeah.
I tell a lie. Yeah. This did happen once. We were setting up Girls Like You 2 for Kerrie, and one of the artists just vanished off the face of the earth. As in deleted social media, deleted every phone number we had for her. She was a buddy of a friend's on the other side of the world. I called my buddies, hey, where is she? Don't know. She hasn't spoken to me in 4 weeks, and we can't find her. And she didn't resurface for years.
Vince probably murdered her, to be fair.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, if only. She just moved city and didn't tell anybody. And scrubbed her media. But in that instance, there's no Girls Like You 2 to be had at the moment, because that set the whole project back, because that was the first story and the cover for the book, and that's all gone out the window. And then for a writer like Kerrie, she's also a letterer, so she turns around to me and says, I want to do it, but I also have this offer to go do this book. Okay, go get paid. Obviously, go get paid.
Yeah. Sorry, tough. V, did we interrupt one of your questions, babe? Sorry, mate.
No, okay. When you call me babes, every time, it gets
you
me
love
every
it.
Time. Thanks, babe. So for those creators out there, or maybe they're wannabe creators, they're going to make their first comic or whatever, and they're the one person band. This is the person that's written, drawn, is lettering, possibly colouring, everything themselves. And they don't really have a concept of editing or getting people into proof things or things like that. At what point, or should someone like that think about getting an editor involved with their work or their project? At what sort of levels? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no. So you're talking about like a full package creator.
Yeah.
They do everything.
We've seen those books that when you open the cover, it just says one name, doesn't it? And sometimes they're amazing books, but I guess a lot of these people, they're just much like I was when I started. I had a colorist, but I was doing it all myself, and didn't so much proof it. The first issue went out, and
so I think there's
easily one of my biggest criticisms in reviews is this book could have done with an editor.
Yeah.
Easily. Yeah.
Even just a proofreader for the lettering draft.
Yeah.
So this is one of the cool things for me anyway, working with Kerrie, same office. She also proofreads the scripts as she's lettering.
Right.
So there's no there will come a time when I will get the elbow on the back of the chair. What's up?
Is this supposed to be
misspelled? Oh, listen, if I piss her off, a shoe is coming across the room, and it's my fault every time. We know it is. I'm horrifying. But so it will be. Is this supposed to be misspelled? No. Why didn't you catch it in the proofread? Apologies. Will I change it, or do you want to proof the whole script before I fix this little mistake? I'm just going to go proof the script quickly because I probably missed one thing. Thanks for the heads up.
I'm scared of her. I've never met her.
She's wonderful. She's
one of the loveliest people I ever met.
But again, a lot of that comes down to especially just if you're going to do your first comic and you're going to do everything yourself, Godspeed to you. Get another set of eyes on your finished page before you print it.
Yeah.
There was a joke, a meme that went around a while ago. This year, let's make it the year where we all hire an indie comics editor so we can spell our names right. And no truer joke has been told, because I've picked up books and they've had, from John Smith, but it's John Smeevy.
Yeah.
And this is on your cover, and I know, but I didn't have time. I just didn't proof it, and it went to print. I can't afford £400 to reprint 50 copies. Well, yeah, okay, who can? But you're Smeevy now for life. And again, it's always nice to have someone else to blame when everything goes wrong. I'll circle us back around to girls like you. There's one typo in that entire book, and it is the worst typo because it's in the profiles at the very, very back. After I typed up everybody's bios and I sent it to Kerrie, files ready to go, she turns around and she says, Hugo, I want your name in the book as well, though. So, yeah, you got me an editor's credit at the beginning. It's fine. So I want your name, your quick profile, and your website because you did so much work. So, okay, fair enough. I typed it up, didn't proof it, sent it in. So my website was, www.superherodesk.com. And the one fucking typo was the thing from the editor. No. Which, of course, I couldn't not just... Okay. There goes my portfolio in the fire.
But it does show the importance. I think we've talked about different levels of editing in this conversation, but it's always good to get new eyes on your work, even if you're doing it yourself or if you're part of a team or whatever.
If someone can't afford an editor, and I understand, like when you're doing the budget for your book, the most important thing isn't the editor. But if you don't have a mate who will look over your book, like you just need a set of eyes, just something to distance yourself,
because there will always be something that you haven't seen, and it's the person that knows. It's not the person that knows you're working on this. I think sometimes the best eyes are the person that knows nothing about it and is reading it for the first time, because they'll always say, "Oh, well, there's too many words here," or "There's a double space here," or they'll pick out something because and if it sticks out to someone that doesn't know about this comic and is reading it for the first time, it'll probably stick out to the person that you've just sold your issue to at a convention. So
because if someone picks your book up at a convention and then the first thing they say to you is that they see a typo, the rage is almost indescribable.
Normally.
I mean, look, hopefully you've all got some tips from this, and just know that every single one of us has made these mistakes.
You
has made, is still making, will make for the next 50 years.
Yep. But hopefully you've learned a bit more or got some tips, or I know certainly we have. I mean, I'm always making notes every time, but I've made quite a few notes.
I like that.
Yeah.
I do like this digital calendar idea. I think that's definitely something to incorporate early into your comics making life.
Yeah, there's a couple of little apps you can use. I'm currently using Notion with Aaron from Little Heroes. He had to talk me through it when I met him on Friday because I'm stupid and can't work. But
I think a great thing about that, and just in general, is just because you know what convention you're going to launch you want to launch your comic at. Yeah, that isn't the only date you need to know. You need to know print deadlines. You need to know everything. Take that convention that you're going to launch your comic at and work backwards to where you are right now, because there's an awful lot of dates you need to put in that calendar.
I use Team Up. Team Up's the app I use with No Brow. So the little marketing team I work with we use that, and it's good actually. I really do think it's good.
As a quick aside, when we did the Awesome comic, we worked on the deadlines. We knew well in advance. We got all the artwork well ahead of the print deadline. We were on it.
Yeah. And we're all idiots, so
very true.
We can do it.
Exactly.
If we can do it, you can as well.
Please listen to our podcast. Learn about how to create comics. We're all idiots.
Mind you, have you seen Marvel recently? They ain't much more than...
Hey, shots fired. But anyway, that was fantastic, and we hope you learned a lot from this week. I mean, I think I've learned quite a few things over the past few weeks. It's always been good, and thank you, Hugo, for being another new voice to the show. Long overdue.
That was good fun.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. And I always learn so much from you.
You doing Thought Bubble or anything, babes? Or
I'm gonna go as a punter again this year. I had to take a year off last year just to rework funds to pay for pitches.
Okay, right, yeah.
So this year, punting, kicking around.
Yeah, come see us, man. We're there.
I always do, don't I? Well, do I? I always find Vince.
I mean, I've been to Thorpe a couple of times, and every time I've seen you there, Hugo.
That's a great show.
Yeah, I'll be at the no-brow table, so come around.
Fantastic, I will.
Yeah, good man.
You don't have to get him a coffee. He just always says that to people.
Complain that you never do. Yeah, not you, Hugo. I'll be nice to you. I'm just horrible to Vince and Dan.
I mean, if Vince isn't bringing you a coffee, he kind of has a comment.
Don't you join in.
The only way you get a drink out of Vince is stick your fingers down his throat. That's that.
That is what the hell?
Next level savagery.
Jesus. And
this has gone very off the rails. I'm really sorry to anyone who came to listen to this to learn the process and things like no more than 30 words per balloon or 3 balloons per panel. All those small technical things, how important it is to show your
they've got all that info now. Like, they could stop if they wanted, because it's just going to be downhill from here. Because we are on to the shout-out section of the show. Do we have any shout-outs, gents?
I've got a couple.
Go for it.
I've got one.
Do yours, Dan. Go on, you go first, babes.
Mine's for a Kickstarter for Dan Harris's comic, The Cosplayer That Doomed the Earth, issue 1 and 2. It's currently running Kickstarter. When you hear this, it'll have 9 days left to run.
Cool.
I backed it. The Cosplayer That Doomed the Earth is the story of Griff, a lifelong fan of an old fictional computer game called Captain Aqueous and the Veritas Squad. And Dan's put a raft of pages and designs up on the Kickstarter. And a bunch of rewards too. It looks absolutely fantastic.
You know what? I got to review it or preview it, and I love that book. And I hate cosplayers, famously. And I actually really like that book. It's actually really good. Although he did hand it to me and he gave me a little wink and said, "I think you'll like this, my friend." And there's a couple of reasons why.
Oh, nice one.
Deadpool cosplayers meeting their doom is always a good thing. You know?
Oh, dear.
Dan's done a bunch of comics before. He's like an old hand at most comics. So
in fact, I'm editing him on a comic at the moment, and he's kicked it out of the park again. He's very good.
There you go.
Happy days.
Yeah, so back that.
Yeah.
Cool. Also back Damage Case, a sketchbook by past guest and our pal Grant Richards, which is looking gorgeous.
Grant's a beast.
He is good, isn't he? He really is good. I've got to hit him up for a pin-up soon for something I'm working on, and I really like his stuff. And it's not quite there. Could do another little nudge, so have a look at that one. The last one I've got is Hackney Comic and Zine Fair is next Sunday, the 8th of September. It's at London Fields Arches, Helmsley Place, E8. There's loads of our friends there. So you've got Elizabeth Queerstrutt, who's been on the show before, Gareth Hopkins, who's been on the show, Andy Poyargi, who I interviewed last year at LCAF. Ladies Do Comics crowd are there. Joe Stone, who was briefly on an interview for us on the last LCAF special. We'll be at table number 1 for the No Brow table, and we'll have a few sort of free postcards. I got some of the John McNaught postcards, which are literally like little pieces of art in themselves. You know, I mean, you could easily frame them. So there's some really gorgeous stuff. I've saved a couple for you boys. Don't worry.
Oh, good.
No,
I was going to say that. Lovely.
Yeah, and it's got a real buzz about it. This is the inaugural one, so it's the first one.
Yeah.
It's also Hackney Carnival that day, so it's going to be quite boozy, I suspect.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
So I'm looking forward to that one. There you go.
And obviously, as we're recording, it is today, so, you know, it'll be too late now. But from all of us here, we certainly hope that you show some love on Letterer Appreciation Day.
Yeah, today, isn't it? Yeah,
we've
got
on September the 1st. Yeah. Obviously, our last show was with Jim Campbell talking about lettering. And, like with editing, lettering, colouring, we like to highlight the people that don't get enough love. So, we know our listeners, no doubt, gave a shout-out to their favourite letterers and stuff. But, yeah, it was good to see that hashtag pop up, actually. Jim mentioned, didn't he? Because it's the birthday of a famous letter, isn't it? And that's the day they do it. And I'm completely blanking on the user's name. But well, if you want to find out, then if you haven't listened to the last show, then go back and listen to
it.
Yes.
It's not Todd Klein, is it? Are we blanking?
No, it's. I'm gonna find it, my friend. Yeah, it was someone he talked about on the show. I think I brought it up to you, and really interesting stuff.
It's not John Workman. No,
I think it's before those guys.
Yeah, it is. It's not in my notes. Damn it!
Oh, I can't find it. Yeah, leave it. You keep talking. I'll find it.
No, my notebook's just full of drawings of dicks. What's all that about?
Jasper Saldano.
Is it? It's a Gary or something. Keep going. I'll find it. Keep going.
We can't vamp now that we've got to the recommendation section of the show. Yes, it's time to recommend some lovely comics to you lovely people. Who wants to go first this week?
Guess first. Go on.
Yeah, let's have the guess first.
Yeah.
Hugo, you love comics. Sure. It's always good looking at your Twitter timeline because you always give a shout out to comics left, right and centre. So what would you like to recommend to our lovely listeners?
So, straight away, Lad. It's finished on Kickstarter. Lad the Homecoming. You can follow Umar Dita, Carlos Pedro, myself at Hugo Boylan, Dervla Kelly. She might have... I'm not going to ask you to look up Dervla Kelly without spelling it. So, DearbHLAKELLY, I think. Or Kerrie Smith for updates on that project. You can also find it on Facebook. It's going to be phenomenal.
I pledge that. It looks amazing.
It's some of Carlos's career best work, and I hate that he's not fucking drawing it for me, but it's fine. I'm not jealous. There's also Claire Napier has a collection she's put together. It's going to be a serialized, ongoing series of short comics that all come together. It's called Bud and Tea. My buddy Gary Maloney has what I think is probably the best comic he's written coming out there called Lens. It's what if Lois Lane, but also she's John Wick.
Nice, yeah.
And it's just full of fantastic short stories. Again, it's been funded on Kickstarter. When it comes out, you're going to want to find this book. It's only going to be available digitally. Find it and read it because it's just so weirdly different and fun. But also, if anyone out there wants to start making comics today, I've got 3 books that I'd like you to try to read if you can. Ooh. The first is of course, Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics. Yeah, it is the must-read book. If you want to make comics and you haven't read this book, go back and start again and start with McCloud. There's also a book called How to Self-Publish Comics, Not Just Create Them. It is by Devil's Due.
Okay.
By Josh Blaylock. It's a very, very useful book. It goes into the finances, it goes into the deadlines, everything you need to know to make sure that the book that you are going to make isn't going to cost you your mortgage.
Yeah. Okay.
And you might get a return. And there's one other book, and this is just because I'm a nerd and I like storytelling. It's called 99 Ways to Tell a Story.
Oh, I own this. This is
a
must-buy, definitely. Yeah.
I don't know why more people don't talk about this book.
Yeah, this is taught in film school as well, isn't it, Hugo? It's another one that's
And it just, I always feel anybody making comics needs to think about their story in a different way from the moment they visualize it to the moment they finalize it. And this is a great book to show you how you can do that.
Yeah, it's almost a page, an angle, isn't it? I suppose it's the best way. So
every page is a new way to tell the same story. It goes from simple to obscure to art house. I think there's a math problem in there at one point.
Right.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's good.
Well worth it.
I've got it on the shelf here, actually. Yeah,
okay.
That is good. Yeah. Cool.
Nice.
Just quickly, Gaspar Saladino is the name. I talked about him before. He's, as well as working for DC for 60 years, he also designed the Swamp Thing logo and a number of other things. He's a bit of a legend for letterers, and an all-round good guy. There you go.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
So, and you'll certainly have a lot of knowledge after reading all those books. That's a great list, that is. Who wants to go next?
Go on, V. You go on.
Right. Mine will be a short, sharp one, as it were. And it was another Comixology buy, and it was actually one of the... I haven't done the weekly cover choice for a couple of weeks now. Past couple of weeks have been a bit lackluster in terms of comics, but also in comic covers anyway. But a few weeks ago, I spotted one called Detonator, which is a self-published comic by James Parrish and Carlos N. Zamudio. I hope I got that right. Letterer is James DeSantis. It's got 2 editors on this. And which is Mary Georgescu and Zoe Johnson. I thought, as it's a show about editors, might as well give them a shout.
Yeah.
This was indie Comixology, just like the cover. Had a gander at a couple of pages of art, and the art was absolutely stellar. So it was $1.49 for a digital comic, and I don't want to read out the synopsis that's online because it kind of spoils the end of the comic. So ignore that. Just buy it from the cover. See the cover and buy it.
So you're advocating that we judge a book by its cover.
Totally.
That's how good the
I tell you
book
what, rarely, normally, and certainly when you get into the habit of looking at weekly comic covers, I certainly pick out some beautiful covers, but don't actually buy the comic. Because sometimes the interiors don't match the exteriors. But Detonator was just such an amazing cover. It looked like some crazy album cover of like this guy's sort of head, and it seems to be exploding out with like a bomb and a figure sort of cutting cords of like a bomb. There's dynamite going on. It's a crazy visual. And with a yellow background, which you don't always see in covers these days, which really stood out.
That's very 90s, isn't it?
Yeah,
like Punisher comics.
Oh.
Yeah, but there's not that many pouches in this comic. Well, actually, there might be. But basically, to boil it down to its essence, Detonator is the name of the supervillain in the comic. There's a superhero called the Beacon who a tragedy struck, and he now stays at home, essentially depressed, thinking about this tragedy that happened. And Detonator,
superhero for our age, just goes on Twitter and is heroic on there.
Yeah. And it starts with him sort of asleep in a dark room, and then his laptop screen flashes up with a sort of smiley face bomb sign that just says "Get the fuck out of bed." And basically the supervillain basically wants this hero to come back and basically blows up his house in order to do it. So you've got this superhero who's just feeling sorry for himself, wants to be left alone, and a supervillain that's like, fucking come on, let's have you.
Something to consider for deadline woes if you're an editor.
Yeah, there's an absolutely...
I'm making notes as we speak.
Yeah.
On the house.
It also gave me one of my favourite lines in a comic recently, which I sent to the guys this panel. As Detonator's stood on the top of a car, he basically blows the guy's apartment up with a old school bazooka. He stood on top of a car as the house is on fire. He says, "There, I gave you something else to cry about, you mopey fuck." It's not often you hear the phrase "mopey fuck."
That's good. So he covered it with a rocket launcher.
Yeah, and then you get the hero powered up, steps out of the rubble, and just a zoom in on Detonator's face. And Detonator has a face that is like a bomb with a smiley face painted on it. And he just says, "This may not have been my best idea." And I don't want to spoil it going on, because you have like a supervillain versus a superhero. This is only issue 1 of an ongoing arc. But this is pretty spectacular. Visually, this is mind-blowing. Just the colours and the artwork. I think, Dan, you need to get this book.
It sounds like my cup of tea.
You really do need to get it, because there's a humour to it. There's certain amounts of action, and then there's a turn as it goes on at the very end that I don't want to spoil. So you just need to read it for yourself, because
nice.
Yeah, it suddenly, what I thought the story was going to be became something else. And now I'm on for the ride. So, it's independent comics, so hopefully you get issue 2 sooner rather than later. But, from all the creators involved, it's 24 pages. It says the age rating is 17 plus, because, curse words, and the superheroes are just grown up things now, aren't they?
Some of them are.
Yeah.
Kids are too busy doing heroin and anal to read comics.
Yeah. At the same time? No, we're not going to get into that. That could be a show in itself. So, yeah, just go on. I mean, I don't know if there's print copies available in your local comic book store. It's the sort of book that if I saw it at a comic convention, I think it's an American book, so I probably wouldn't be able to get it, but I would actually get a print copy. Detonator, number 1. Just look for it wherever you buy digital comics, because I absolutely loved it. So there's mine.
Cool. Can I go? Because I've got one that Dan might like as well.
Go for it.
So I'm going to review Savage Dragon 245.
Yes.
I'm totally on board the Savage Dragon train, and have been now for a couple of years, and I absolutely love it. And I love the fact that Eric Larson just does what he likes with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really does.
Yeah.
There's been a bit of a wait for this one. He's been tied up doing some other stuff, and this has taken a while. And there's some super detail in it, which I'll describe in a minute, and that's maybe part of the reason why. But he's done a Spider-Man page for the Marvel Comics 1000. If anyone have read that, I got it the other day. And he's also doing a new Spider-Man. He's done at least 1 or 2 issues of a regular, isn't he?
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Which is quite exciting. Yeah, which is I'm well excited about.
He was one of my Spider-Man artists back in the day.
Yeah, he was a great Spider-Man artist. He really was. I really liked his stuff. And he's also doing a project which he's sort of hinted at. I don't think he's revealed this yet, where he says he's doing a Marvel creation that he's never done before. So there's a bit of sort of people are trying to work out what it is, because he's drawn a lot. You know, he's drawn a lot of Marvel characters. You know?
God, yeah.
Has he done Man-Thing?
Don't think he has he?
Could be Man-Thing. Man-Thing, because Stein was doing Man-Thing, wasn't he? And then he's come off that, R.L. Stein.
Yeah.
Did he ever do X-Men?
Man, I didn't enjoy that R.L. Stein story. That was talk about novelists going into comics. That was a bit of a mess, that one.
He did that X-Men Center Spread phone-in game for Marvel.
Right.
Remember that?
Has he done Captain America?
Actually, now I think about it, I can't think of... I don't think he's done Captain America. Certainly, as a comic itself, there's probably quite a few.
He's probably drawn them.
Yeah, he's done Defenders, isn't he? So he's covered quite a few of the characters. He's done Spider-Man, he's done Nova, he's done... Yeah, there's quite a few that he's done, isn't there? Anyway, sort of interesting. He may have revealed it by now. I just haven't seen it. I follow him on the social media type stuff, and he's always interesting. Is anyone in that comic swipe group? Where I
used to be. Something irritated me, so I left it.
Yeah, I don't blame him. He does become an argument on most posts, but he does put quite a lot up there, and he's very knowledgeable. And I think, to be fair, if anyone is the sort of spiritual torch holder of a combination of Ditko and Kirby, it's this guy, isn't it? It's Larson.
I agree. Yeah.
You know? And in a time where we talk a lot about Kirby, thankfully at the moment, I don't know why people aren't referring to him as, you know, the guy now, you know. And he is a really talented creator. And I really enjoy watching him draw, and I really enjoy his comics and stuff like that. But it's so written art by Eric Larson, letters by Ferran Delgado, and colours by Nikos Koutis and Mike Torres. This is a really interesting experiment in a comic, and it's a one-off. It's a one and done. There's no pages that are not a double-page spread or a 12-panel grid. So you alternate between a double-page spread, then you get 6 pages of 12-panel pages, and then you get another double-page spread. It's quite an interesting technique. I read a while ago that he was going to do it as a 9-panel grid, but he seems to have changed his mind around that. I don't know if he's of the same opinion as me that that's becoming too common, and he wants to do one more. You know, so he's done these sort of 12-panel grids. His stuff is sort of really bombastic Kirby style action, you know, bricks flying everywhere, you know, big sound effects. And also recently, he's become quite sexy. There's a lot of sexy time.
Yeah.
I think. Go on, man.
He used to do kind of nudes from the back, or like the Austin Powers style, like there's a sausage in front of the knob, you know. But now it just all pretense that's out the window. It's just full on.
There's certainly been in the last sort of year and a half, 2 years, there's been, you know, women he's having sex with being, you know, thrown across the room on a spout of sperm and stuff like that. There's all of that sort of thing has gone on. This one's actually a little bit more subtle. He's for anyone that reads Savage Dragon, it's not the original character anymore. For those that don't know this, it's been a few years. It's Malcolm Dragon, who's I think his son, and his wife is Maxine. He and her are sort of alternatively, depending on the mood, nymphomaniacs. So there's a lot of that goes on. It's kind of there's an element of soap opera in it as well, which is the relationships that you would see in a soap opera turned up to 11, because it's in a sort of Kirby world of monsters and fighting and, you know, just toppling buildings with one punch and stuff like that.
I think, you know, in terms of to have a long running comic, there has to be an element of soap opera in it. I think.
I know. I enjoy it, man. Yeah. I really do. The X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, the best part of that was the relationships.
Yeah.
Let's face it, you know, really was. That's what we remember.
If you're not putting melodrama into your long-running series, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Doing it. Yeah, it's all right to be highfalutin and scientific and stuff like that, but we want a bit of personal stuff in there, don't we? Just to connect to sometimes.
I mean, look, if you want to have a calculated 6-issue, everything is fully planned out and perfect, fine, 6 issues. If I want to read 150 pages, I want to know what your grandmother once told you that made you feel so pissed off you married the wrong girl.
Yeah. We're not getting personal here, are we?
No.
I just want to see people fired across the room on a flume of jizz. Is that just
in real life?
I've got a link.
None of us here to kink shame.
So the story in this is such. So it opens, drops straight in the action, and Dragon is fighting a guy who's sort of floating in the air with loads of chains. He's there, as he says, to avenge his own death, and he's pretty much losing. He's been sort of thrown from building to building by these chains, and Larson draws every single link on every single chain in this. It is beautiful, really is. I sent you guys one of the double
that's
pages.
great. Yeah.
I was listening to another podcast yesterday, Fincast, which is just about Savage Dragon, quite a specialist one. But they were talking about there was a spawn artist, and I can't remember who it was they said, but he created a digital brush that when you stroke the brush across the page, it creates chains. Because he got so fucked drawing chains.
Nice.
Is that something you can do? I don't understand computers.
You can do that, yeah.
Yeah, that's quite clever, isn't it? But I get the impression from this that Larson didn't do that, because they change in size, and some are twisted, and some are where he's trying to break them, some are extended, that sort of thing. So the guy turns up, Dragon has a fight with him, and he kills someone, and then he disappears again. And Dragon sort of cunningly says, no, he's here to avenge 3 people. We got 2 more deaths coming. He then goes home to have a shower. A lady gets in the shower, tries to have sex with him. He turns her down, goes to a bar, meets his wife, and they then have sex in the toilet. Very noisy sex in a cubicle while 2 blokes are weeing at the urinal. One of the blokes is weeing at the urinal with his hands in his pockets, both hands. That's pretty Italian, isn't it?
Just about do his elephant impression.
Yeah. And now, Dragon works out what's happening, and he ends up going to the funeral of a mob guy, and at it is this guy, and he gives him a pull, and he says, look, I think you're the next victim. You're going to get killed. I'm here. And the chained guy, the chained man, as he's called, turns up again to kill his final person. Now, spoilers, if you're going to read Dragon 245, there's a lot of reasons why you'd read it. I wouldn't just be this spoiler, but I think it has an implication to a storytelling technique that he uses here. Now, if you want to fast forward past this spoiler, then please do. But Dragon then, so the guy's going to get killed. The chained man is turning up and he's killing people left, right, and centre, and the guy takes a hostage. And the chained guy can't get to him because he's holding a gun to this woman's head as a hostage. But other people are dying in the sort of melee. So Dragon Jr. pulls a gun out and shoots the guy in the head, and he says, I did what I had to do.
Wait, hang on. Dragon Jr. needs to use a gun. Does he not have the weird finny Hulk body of Dragon Sr.?
He can't get close to the guy because he's holding this hostage.
Right.
So the guy's got the hostage, and he's saying, look, if you come any nearer to me, chained man, I'm going to kill this girl. And Dragon realises that other people will die as a consequence of him holding this person hostage. So he takes the sort of practical, some might call it practical decision, to kill the guy himself.
That's a very complicated moral sort of situation to put in a comic that probably a couple of pages before they were having sex everywhere.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just found it really interesting.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I kind of get, and Larson's such a great storyteller. You get it immediately. You get it in the eyes of Dragon as he's holding the gun that's smoking. You obviously see the guy's head explode, the bullet go through his head, drops to the floor, and then the third panel along is Dragon holding the smoking gun, and you realise it's him who shot him.
Is that towards the end of the comic? So the next issue will probably be the aftermath of him thinking about what he's done.
Well, maybe, yeah. It's the second to last page, and the last page is he's in bed with Maxine again, who's complaining that they have sex too much before going to sleep.
Well,
Yeah. So back to sexy times. I just found it an interesting twist.
Yeah.
I don't know. So
not sure if I'd seen that coming.
No, I didn't either, and it's clever. Is that all right with you guys? Is that in character enough for you? Is that would that put you off?
No, not at all. I kind of it's good to kind of explore those kind of things as opposed to kind of nice, neat ending.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see where that went.
Departure as well. Just you have a character that's known for physical brutality, and all of a sudden he has to use a gun to sort his violence.
Yeah.
I think the original Dragon had really massive, oversized Uzis. I can always remember that.
Yeah, because he was a cop, wasn't he? He was a Chicago cop.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting.
Nice
It's good. So that's the end. There's a couple of backups. There's Savage Dragon Jungle Action, which I kind of like the title too.
Yeah.
Which is written by Eric Larson with art by PJ Holden. It looks to me... I usually like PJ's work, but it looks to me like an attempt at a sort of Savage Dragon story if it was in an issue of Cracked or Mad magazine somehow. don't know. It looks too. There's moments of it that don't quite work for me. I don't know. It's I think because it's such a departure. I mean, I know other people do draw Dragon, but I'm so into sort of Larson's drawing of him that I kind of.
Yeah.
There's a monster in it, and he fights a monster. It's okay. Do you know what I mean? It's not a huge departure, but it's not. It's not what I was expecting. It's the old Dragon. It's the original Dragon in that. Then there's a couple of sort of newspaper style strips in the back. He's quite supportive of Larson of publishing other creators, which I kind of like as well. You know,
he did that thing with the character contest, didn't he?
That's right.
Back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a strip called Foxy by Paul Mabry and a strip called Moonbeard by James Squires. They're both just little 6-panel bits of fun. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't quite sell as many as it used to, Savage Dragon, but I think if you want a consistent comic with just like really good action and some interesting story, you know, an adult comic, some interesting characters, interesting story sort of turns, then I can't recommend. It's the second time I've done Savage Dragon on here. I can't recommend it more. I absolutely love it every time. It's the first read.
And you can't knock a creator that's still putting out 200 plus issues of an independent comic. So
yeah, really good. Top stuff.
Yeah,
that's my one.
Danny boy, take us home. Take us back. Take us way, way back in your time machine.
I'm taking you way back to 1985.
Oh, nice.
With some Starblazer.
I
was just sort of on a whimsy at work, obviously not working. And, well, fuck it, I jump on eBay and I buy a couple of Starblazer books. Unfortunately, our friend John Freeman down the tubes, there's an article that lists every single Starblazer and all the creative team involved. Because for whatever reason, they don't list it inside the individual comics.
Yeah.
So the two I got, I can remember getting, and I think they came out. Well, one of them is number 158, and the other one's 161. So they must have come out in the space of a couple of weeks. And one's Axel the Avenger, which is kind of like a Conan the Barbarian, choose your own adventure comic. So you'll get to a panel and it says, right, you're going to do X or you're going to do Y, and then you turn to the relevant panel and get killed or not. Poor old Axel, we'd read him through the comic, like virtually every page, nearly every panel, he's getting done over, like eaten, chopped up, or beheaded. It's pretty savage. And I think I remember this, I must have been about 7 or 8 at a time. And some of the sort of questions he'd ask, like he picks up this magical sword and it's got 2 buttons on it, square or circle. And you pick the wrong one and you die. But there's no reasoning as to which one you'd pick one over the other. And I can remember it as a kid feeling, wow, what a swizz. And the other one is, I had to look up the artist because I'd never come across them before, called Enrique Alacenta. And he's an absolute amazing, I think he's a Portuguese artist. Argentinian. And he's the artist in this comic called The Seeds of Madness, which is fantastic, where an alien spore gets onto this prison planet and all the inmates go fucking berserk and it's like kill crazy and start turning on the screws. And there's a fantastic one-page panel.
That doesn't sound like something you'd like, Dan.
No. There's all these like inmates and they're all dressed in these kind of like black and white striped suits.
Yeah.
Jumping out of the cells, and there's one like with a crazed look in his eye, and he goes, "Thank you, Screw. Now you die." It's great. It's really, really old school, like chopped language.
Reminds me of when I was in prison.
Yeah. So I was kind of looking around, and I might grab a few more. There's one I looked on the checklist, and I saw, it's Grant Morrison wrote it.
Yeah, he did. That's right.
Yes, I remember that. So I looked up the cover, and it was one of the ones I'd bought as a kid and really, really enjoyed. And
okay, cool.
Right. Yeah.
Nice.
So I'd recommend going checking out down the tubes and then buying an issue or two of your favourite writer off of eBay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a few behind me. I do like them. Yeah.
I did notice, I've sent a link on, there's a scallywag on eBay who's got them all on a CD or DVD you can buy off of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on, isn't there?
Yeah. I'm not... It's like £3 for all of them. I mean, when it's a bit of when you're having trouble getting them, I'll look the other way. But
but it's something.
Wouldn't it be nice if all of the publishers kept it all current, reprinted, and always in circulation?
Yeah.
Why not print these fucking things in a great big book and people?
Yeah, we've been crying out for that for years, haven't we? Especially Starblazer.
Yeah.
Hopefully one day we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
They must not like making money for some reason.
Yeah. We don't. That's why we make comics.
Yeah.
And we hope that you enjoyed this week's show. And got something out of it. Now, we had a couple of questions on the Twitter, but we were so knee deep in the topic that we didn't get a chance to answer them. But I think the actual talk answered some of them anyway. But however, there are some ways that you can get in touch with us to maybe further the discussion more.
Yeah.
Likewise, if we murdered anyone's name, etc., you can let us know. You can tell us off via email at awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. Likewise, if you've got any like comic events coming up, especially like small press and the indie ones, like I see on Instagram and Twitter and stuff, people are going to like certain little comic conventions and they're fairly local to them. And if we can put a shout out to them, get more people there, in some small way, just let us know. We'll put a shout out on the show notes, etc. So awesomecomicspod@gmail.com is where you can get in touch with us there. Follow us on Twitter @theawesomepod, where we'll let you know what the next stage of the process is and who we'll be talking to very soon. If you do Facebook, go to facebook.com/awesomecomicspodcast and like or follow. What is it on Facebook? I don't know what it is. But I know that there's an amazing...
Awesome Pod. Oh, no, I don't know on Facebook, sorry.
Yeah, right, I don't know what it is. I'm not down with the kids.
But
I do know that there's a fantastic group on there called Awesome Comics Talk, which we started as a laugh and has become a nice little community for loads of people to talk about conventions and making comics, and no hard selling for any sort of Kickstarter campaigns or anything like that. It's just talking about everything comics.
I put a thing up today, actually, I know people will be appearing and selling their comics at conventions, and we're kind of hitting a bit of a convention season again, aren't we, now? We've had a bit of a time off. So there's a bit of a thing on there. If you're appearing at a convention, you've got a new book out, then go to that little post and you can add to it, I think.
Yeah. And likewise, we will post up this episode on there. This is maybe where you found the episode. But keep the conversation going on there, like discussions with we'll probably post up a couple of the questions that we got onto that chat and keep it going, because the community is great on there, and the conversation is always great. So
it really is.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Cheers, Hugo.
That's very nice. And it's
you
not down to us.
Hugo directly.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You can ask him directly. And like I say,
sorry.
we just started the group. We started the group. It's everyone else that makes it brilliant. So definitely check it out. And thank you. Stop taking credit for. I mean, we are amazing, but still.
That's true.
I thought you were awesome.
Thank you.
There you go. Keep it on brand. As a good editor should.
Yeah. I may have to edit you all out of this week's episode. But thank you for listening to us, whether it's on the website awesomecomics.podbean.com. If you listen to us on iTunes, subscribe and leave a review. Helps get the word out about this show and all the comics we talk about. And we just appreciate people liking this show anyway. So don't leave us a bad review. No, we don't want that, do we?
Don't do that.
No. Because we make comics, so we're fragile. And
always wear your trousers on the bus. I think we need to circle back to that.
If anyone wants to put that into a
we
t-shirt.
can't endorse that, really.
If there's any message you've got to take away from this, it's keep your trousers up on the bus.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. It's the most important information that we've given you this week. Whether you listen to us on Spotify, Stitcher, Podnose, Podknife, or what other networks are we on, Tony?
Well, I'd like to invite you to listen to Pod Toon Mag.
I like this.
Like it. Anyone who posts about comics and listens to this show, or just in general, will know what we're referencing there.
Yeah. Anyone who promotes their comic on Twitter, maybe you get that reference. Yeah.
It's either a really enthusiastic individual that doesn't have much to say, or it's a bot.
Yeah, a robot.
It could
Everyone's
be
a
both.
robot. You know that.
Yeah, it could be both. Oh, God. Skynet. Perhaps this is the beginning of Terminator. Anyway, where can people find us?
Why won't you read my webcomic?
Where can people find us online, etc.? Tony?
neveronanything.blogspot.co.uk. I'm doing a real revamp on it at the moment, so keep your eyes out for that. Or EZOHYZ on Twitter.
Nice. Dan?
You can find me on Twitter at Vanguard Comic, and you can be Vanguard at vanguardcomic.com.
Nice. Me and Tony had a little preview of some upcoming designs. Cannot wait.
Yes.
For the
thanks,
new
guys.
Stories.
Yeah.
It's quality. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jester Diablo, and you can find out more about my comic at theredmass.com. Thank you again, Hugo, for joining us this week. It's been absolutely awesome. You're welcome back anytime. Where can people find you online and get your books, etc.?
So I put up a lot of free stuff on my website, which is hugoboylan.com, hugoboylan.com. A lot of free short comics. That's also where I'll put up con information, where I'll be going, or for some reason, unbeknownst to me, a 4,000-word rant about editing. Always fun. You can also find me on Twitter, at Hugo Boylan. And just yell at me. Things are good.
Cool.
Don't just yell at him in public, but yeah. But what other conventions are you doing? I mean, obviously you're visiting Thought Bubble. Are there any shows for the rest of the year you're planning to attend?
I'm not actually sure. We took a year off to sort of refocus, replan, to get the finances set up to pitch a couple of books.
Yeah.
So I'll know in basically late September, early October where we're going and what we're doing for the rest of the year.
So stay tuned.
But I know that the big one is definitely going to be Thought Bubble, because I miss everybody at Thought Bubble. We didn't go last year, and it broke my heart.
Oh, well, expect a lot of hugs. That's just from Tony.
Yeah. I like to push in with my hugs.
Oh, pardon?
It's okay. I can linger.
Yeah.
Oh. This is getting uncomfortable. So let's just keep going for a couple of hours. No, thank you for listening, everyone.
That never happens.
Have a brilliant week from Dan, Tony, Hugo, and myself. Read loads of comics. Just check out some old books, check out some new books, and take another look at that page of artwork or script and just think, do I need to show it to someone else? The answer is yes, you do. But until then, what else should they do, Dan?
Stay awesome.
Yes. Bye, everyone.
See ya.
Yeah.
Bye.
You missed all the dirty talk before we called you in.
It was dirty, wasn't it?
Really?
It was particularly dirty tonight.
You still haven't told me who your favourite porn star is, Vince.
Well, it's you. You know it's you.
Oh yeah, thank you, man. Yep. Homemade's
always
best.
need a side hustle.
Yeah.
I don't know if having sex in front of the windows of Curry's makes you a porn star, but those cameras don't record.
I remember standing in the rain and going for a laugh through the window of Curry's once and realising how sad I was.
Fucking hell. That not only is depressing, but that's an old reference, dude.
That's so old, I'm.
Sorry about this, Hugo. We're normally more professional.
This is fantastic. I think there's a second podcast in this whole enterprise.
If someone put out the offcuts, I'd get nicked. There's no way about it.